Welcome to the Salt Strong Podcast, disrupting fishing entertainment as you know it. Prepare to laugh. Prepare to get to know fishing legends in a whole new and unfiltered way. And on occasion, you might even learn a thing or two about fishing. Here's your host, Joe Simons. Like diamonds.
Struggling with religion? You're not alone. Hey everybody, Joe Simons, Like Diamonds, back again with Salt Strong Unchurched. This might be one of the most controversial podcasts yet. And I'm going to tell a true story, something that just happened to us where we struggled with religion in general as a family. And I will share that in just a second. But first, I want to make sure I start this off by saying I am not trying to be negative or bash any sort of religions. Just having an honest conversation about religion in general versus the love of Jesus or spirituality. There is a big difference, right? And when I'm talking about religion here, if I could boil it down to just one word, it would be rules or rule, right? And we know this. I mean, there's been many. I'll give one example from the Bible. And if you've watched the show The Chosen, you've seen some of this. I mean, Jesus did not really care for the religious establishment, if you will, the Pharisees, right? And there was a time where Jesus, or actually multiple times, where he healed someone, like literally saved someone's life and healed them on the Sabbath. And that was a rule, right, that the religious institution at the time had put into place. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the Sabbath. That's obviously still practiced. And some religions, some it's talked about, some it's very orthodox. But either way, his whole point was, why wouldn't I save someone on a Sabbath? And right after it happened, there was a synagogue ruler, someone who's in charge of the rules. And quote from the Bible, "There are 6 days for work, so come and be healed on those days, not on the Sabbath." So they wanted to fry this guy Jesus for healing and saving people on the Sabbath because it didn't fit within their rules. And Jesus, he said back to him, if you guys have heard the story of the sheep, well, if any of you has a sheep and it falls into a pit on the Sabbath, will you not take hold of it and lift it out? How much more valuable is a man than a sheep? Therefore, it is lawful to do good on the Sabbath. So Jesus was really kind of one of the first people there to really push back on these, once again, rules to say, why can't we do good on the Sabbath? He's not talking about working out in the fields for a full day. He's like, why can't we still do good stuff all the time? Why can't we save people and heal people and pray for people all of the time? And there's obviously many, many more examples and all types of religions. And I'm not picking on anyone in particular here. But I do think anytime that we get so caught up in some of the rules and or even rituals that we lose sight of what's really, really important, right? You can quickly, and that's what happened with the Pharisees, right? They were so concerned about keeping these rules. Like the rules became more important than anything else. I mean, even more important than the Bible. And obviously, these days we have the same sort of things happening in many religions, where these rules that are just so sacred and have been held for thousands and thousands of years in some religions, they're now more important than taking a step back and saying, all right, well, who are we doing this for? And why are we doing this for? And I think it's worth asking that question anytime that we get just kind of caught up in rules or in certain rituals. And I remember for the first time when I joined a fraternity at Georgia Tech there, and that's another thing that's very, very big on rituals, right? And essentially rules on how you did stuff. And I always just thought it was so weird, and maybe I'm just a rebel or something. I don't know. Maybe something's wrong with me, but I don't know. It was just the way to walk in a certain way, and you had to do everything had to be done an exact certain way, or just it didn't count, and it was not going to be the same. And I was like, guys, I understand there's certain rituals that yes we have to do, but some of this stuff is just silly. Like, and you'd ask why, and like that's just the way it's always been done. And I feel like that's a rut you can get in pretty quickly in churches and synagogues and other places when you don't ask. And I'm not saying trying to challenge the institution, if you will, unless you feel like that's what you're called to do, like that's what Jesus did. But at some point, we have to ask ourselves, like, why? Is Jesus really judging me over this? Is this really what we should be doing and how we should be judging people? So all that to be said, here's the story and here's what we can learn from it. So last week, if you listened to my podcast last week, if you haven't, please listen to it. It was a really, really powerful one. I never love it when I tear up and get emotional on the podcast, but I feel like every time there's been something with one of my kids in hospitals and stuff, I always get a little teared up and emotional. And of course, it was a pretty awesome story about what happened with my son Jackson and Jesus. And in that one, I talked about how he was seeing things at night, and I mean, it was super scary. It was very surreal, and it went on for like 6 hours. It wasn't just some night terrors. So he was hallucinating, right? So for one evening there, he hallucinated, and it turned out to be some sort of typhoid fever, and it was absolutely nuts and a really, really wild week. But we had the whole family, praying for him, and our daughter Savannah. At school, you can put in prayer requests, and they have a chapel every Wednesday. And in chapel, they read out those prayer requests. So everyone's praying over this person. And my cute little daughter, Savannah, it just said, "Hey, pray for my brother. He was seeing things the other night. She knows how to spell hallucinating, but just say he was seeing things at night." So very innocent. Everyone's praying over him. Awesome. So the following day, the school gets contacted by this family. And I guess their daughter was in there. So let's just say it was an 8-9-year-old daughter was, in that chapel and heard that, had told her parents, and seeing things like hallucinating is against their religion. It's one of those rules that means that your family is demented and there's issues with them. And so they contacted the school and said, our daughter is no longer allowed to be anywhere near their daughter, even though it wasn't even our daughter that was infected by it. But our whole family now has been labeled as someone you can't be around because they're seeing things at night. And I'm not mad at all. In fact, I've been praying over them. I mean, what a shame that you quickly hear something from a 7 or 8-year-old and essentially go right to the rules, right? Because this is based on their religion and what they believe, that all of a sudden, hey, I heard this about one kid who might have seen something at night, and now this entire family is demented and worship Satan. Who knows what they're thinking? I don't even know. I don't know these people personally. But I just saw that, man, how sad that, we are really good people and we want to meet new people at the school. And that was an opportunity for us to have, maybe a relationship with someone and meet someone and be around good people. And instead, it's just the opposite, all because of some rules. And at first I was just like, are you serious? Like, they literally called in the school and said, no one in their family can hang around our family over someone seeing something at night. But the more I thought about it, I was like, yeah, I feel for them. I feel for anyone who is living their life like that under those strict of rules. And before even doing any investigating, right? I mean, it's one thing to hear from a 8-year-old child about what they heard at school, and then maybe do a little investigating and say, hey, what really happened here? It's another just to go straight to your rule book and say, well, they must be full of evil spirits. We can't hang out with those people. And I'm not picking on their religion. I'm saying we as Christians, we do the same sort of stuff. That's why a lot of people don't like Christians right now. If you go to Facebook or anywhere and you see a post about Christianity or religions, and you start reading the comments, because I do it quite often just to see what people think and why they're thinking certain ways. And most of it goes back to, hey, Christians are hypocritical and they're judgmental. And how can you be judgmental? It's because you're judging someone against a set of, yeah, you guessed it, rules, right? So we are doing, as Christians, the exact same thing. And that's why a lot of people, once again, are struggling with religion and Christianity, et cetera. And even when people have been hurt, I'm not a close friend, but someone I'm friends with, and she she got hurt really, really bad by the church. And kudos to her, and she's getting over this now. But it left the church for a long, long, long time, and it was a pretty bad scene. And it was all because of some stuff around rules, and even with how they personally treated females at this particular church. And even when things came down to a judgment, right, rules, it just all went against her, and it was just really poorly done. And here's the good news is she realizes, hey, this was man-made stuff. This is not Jesus. I can be mad at this particular church on this street in this town and city, but I can't be mad at Jesus. This is not Jesus. This has nothing to do with God's love, with Jesus's love, etc. And that's really the overall message here. That's what's important. What's important is how we love people. What's important is how we love Jesus, how we're praying over people, how we're living our lives. It's not some rules based on some, religious doctrine or religious establishment that says, hey, you can't hang around people that have ever seen something or hallucinated at night once. That kind of stuff, honestly, is really just kind of silly. It doesn't really make much sense. And I know it's not why Jesus went through all of the things that he did for us. It wasn't to act like that or react like that. He wants us to be out there loving. He is, our sins are forgiven. I mean, how awesome is that? He wants us out there to be absolutely just lovers, to be putting other people first, doing everything we can to go help and to serve, not to judge people, and not to sit there and immediately go to some rule book that may or may not even be right. I'm not saying we should have no rules whatsoever. I think you know where I'm going with all this. But I don't know, the whole thing, it was a very frustrating week. It's never fun dealing with someone who's sick, and Jackson was out, the entire next week, after spring break. So this wasn't just a one-day little deal, and then have to deal with that from the school, and they didn't know how to handle it either. Like, we've literally never had anything like this before. We're just kind of passing it along. We don't really know what to do here, and they once again the same thing. They're just like, it's kind of an interesting perspective on things, but we're just taking the call and relaying the message. So anyhow, I think. I don't have all the answers to all of this, and there are certain things that I might think are right or wrong, right, just based on some of my beliefs. But I think anytime that we start looking at religion as just a bunch of rules, we've missed it. We've missed the point of it in general, and that's regardless if you're Christian or not, because there are some rules, right? There are rules in the Bible. And there are rules in all types of religions. But I really do believe, and I believe Jesus, if he was sitting here next to me, would be believing as well. And if you haven't watched Chosen, by the way, I've mentioned it on multiple podcasts, do it. Even the first season, I think if you watch the first couple of episodes, you're going to be sucked in. It is so well done. It's if you've ever struggled to read the Bible, and you're not alone if you struggle to read the Bible, this makes it so much fun, and it's real. And meaning like it feels real. Meaning they've done a really good job. They didn't just make up stuff and create a movie in their likeness of the Bible. It's very, very closely done to the Bible. Retract my words there. It's real. It's very, very closely done. And it feels real, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Like, you really get attached to these characters and can see Jesus in this character that is being played by him. And I don't know, I really, really, really thoroughly enjoyed it, and think everyone should watch it. But the whole first season really is him kind of going against the Pharisees. The whole thing kicks off with some of the head Pharisees there, and what's happening once again with rules on taxation and how they're treating people, and the Romans. And it's really, really fascinating that the whole thing is essentially about Pharisees protecting the rules of their current religious establishment. And this guy Jesus comes in and really starts kind of rocking the boat on a lot of it, which is why they didn't like him. right? The whole reason that they wanted him killed was because he was breaking the rules in many different ways, from healing on Sabbath to calling himself the Messiah. Those were all rules that he was breaking in their eyes, and that's why they wanted to have him killed. So anyhow, I hope this was helpful. I hope anytime that you may or may not quickly or instantly or just subconsciously go to a rule, hey, that's what we were told in church or whatever, maybe take a breather. I'm not saying question every single thing, but there's certain things like this couple, like if they had just sat there and questioned it and maybe dug in a little bit deeper and saying, hey, like it's one thing to think that in your household, another thing to reach out to a school, or if you're at a church, to reach out and say, this person broke the rule and we're going to make a big deal about it. I do think that's why people get so fed up with religion in general, when they just hear about all these rules. Well, I can't do this. I got to hate these kind of people. If you believe in this, or if you're whatever, you can't be a good person because this is what this rule says. And I think we're missing the picture if that's how we act and react to things. So love you guys. Hope you have an amazing week coming up. And if you have any other thoughts or questions on this, I know this was just kind of off the cuff. It all just happened. So I'm just sitting here early in the morning, 5 a.m, just kind of blurting it all out and getting some of it off of my chest. And hopefully it was helpful and hit the right person or people, like I pray about every single episode. But hit me up if you have any questions, joe@saltstrong.com. Love you guys, and I'll talk to you on the next episode.
'Cause fishing, it's in my soul. It was passed down to me from the days of old. To find us on the water if there was a way. It's been said my papa, he wrote the book on catching big reds and 20-pound snook. I wish I knew all the things he knew today. For he's the reason why we are this way. And he put fishing in our soul.